I'm your general psychology instructor, and I hope everything is going well with you. And this audio lecture will help you to understand more your reading material. Today, on the first chapter, we will start by discussing about the essence of psychology. When we discuss about the essence of psychology, we will see four different subtopics. One of the topic is definition of basic concept. The other is the goals of psychology, and the third one is the major perspectives and the background of psychology. And at the end of this topic, we will discuss about the common research method in which psychology used as a science. Let's start with the definition of basic concepts. When we come to the issues of psychology, every one of you are almost familiar with what psychology means. But to get the more understanding, or to have a common understanding about what psychology means, we need to have, or we need to know where the word psychology is originated from. The word psychology is derived from two Greek words. These two Greek words are psych and logos. Psych means soul, mind, or consciousness. Consciousness means something that we immediately experience, or we can say psych also mean it is behavior. The other term is logos. Logos refers to the study or knowledge. So together, the literal meaning of psychology is the study of soul, mind, or consciousness and behavior. Based on this definition, we cannot say psychology is a science, because as a science, we cannot prove soul, mind, or consciousness, because these things are not, our soul is not measurable or observable, or which is not something that we can able to prove. So, what is the scientific definition of psychology? When we come to the scientific definition of psychology, psychology is a scientific study of human behavior and mental process. Under this scientific definition, we can find three basic elements of this definition. One of the elements is psychology is a scientific. Something is scientific means it implies psychology relies on scientific research, or rather than the common sense. So it studies behavior by using different scientific methods. The other thing is, the other element is behavior. Behavior, psychology also studies about the behavior. Behavior in its broader sense, it includes all types of human activities, refers to all our outward, overt action and reaction, such as talking, facial expression, movements are the activities that are considered as the behavior. The third one is the mental process. When something is mental process, it refers to all the internal or covert activities of our mind, such as thinking, feeling, remembering, and extra. So basically, behavior can be classified into two. The first one is overt behavior, the other one is covert behavior. When we say overt behavior, which may include behaviors that could be observed or measured and recorded. So something, the observable types of behavior is called overt behavior. But the other types of behavior is covert behavior. At the same time, human beings have two types of behavior. So the covert one means it is internal or hidden behavior, or invisible behavior. So this is an invisible aspect of human behavior, which are indirectly examined from and inferred from what one says and acts. So these things are, or covert behaviors, are not directly measurable. Rather, they are measured or inferred from what one says and acts. When we come to the next topic, is about the goals of psychology. Psychology has its own four major goals as a science. One of the first goal of psychology is description. Description is nothing observable characteristics. It involves describing the observable characteristics of an event, objects, or individual. It is not arbitrarily describing everything that they observe, or it is describing only things that are important, right? So at this step, The first goal of psychology is to describe what is going on the setting. The other thing, the next step or the next goal of psychology is to explain. Explanation is concerned with discovering cause. It is related with answering or finding out the causes of certain behavior or why something is going on in the environment. So that is explanation. Prediction is future speculation of what will happen in the future. So prediction is about determining what will happen in the future. The fourth goal is to control, or it is concerned with regulating aspect of physical reality. So basically the goal of the science is not just to identify the problem. Rather, the ultimate goal of science is to give a solution or to control a problem which is existed within a society. So psychology as a science, the ultimate goal of psychology is to control the unnecessary behavior or something which is that we need to avoid from the setting or from the environment where we live. These are the four goals of psychology. When we come to the major perspective and the historical development of psychology, this is the third subtopics. We can classify the perspectives or school of thoughts based on two, on the basis of their time. So one of the school of thoughts or the perspectives can be considered as early perspectives, and the others are modern perspectives. When we come to the early perspectives, there are five early school of psychology or early perspectives. This school differ in their significant ways. One of the difference between these five early school of thought is one of the differences they are different in their object or in the areas of their subject matters or what they studies or what should be psychology should focus on. The other is they are different in their goals. They are different in their goals. That means what is their ultimate goal or what is their aim that psychology should achieve. The other thing, in what are the methodologies that are used to study the behavior? So they are different based on this. Let's see the details of each school of thoughts. The first emergent school of thought or perspective is called structuralism. Structuralism, it becomes as a school of thoughts when psychology began at the University of Leipzig, Germany, when William Wundt founded the first psychological laboratory in 1879. So Wundt is considered the first psychologist and father of experimental psychology because he established the first laboratory in Leipzig. And one of his students, Edward Schickner, followed his work or the William Wundt works. He established or he formed or he is considered as the founder of structuralism school of thought. What is the central ideas or what according to the structuralist point of view, what should be the object or the subject matter of psychology? According to structuralism school of thought, conscious experience should be the central idea or it should be the subject matter of psychology. What are these conscious experience? Conscious experience are our sensation, image, and feelings. This uh, this uh, these perspectives try to explain how we sense, how what kinds of images are formed, and how we feel about what we see or what's going on in the environment can determine our behavior according to this school of thought. So the goal of structuralism is to find out the units or elements which make up the mind. So according to structuralists, sensation, image, and feelings are the units that makes up the mind. So how they can study the behavior, the methodology. The methodology here is introspection. The second school of thought or the second perspectives in psychology who come to existence is functionalism. Functionalism is the American psychologist William James is a pioneer, or he's considered as the founder of this school of thoughts. What is the focus or the subject matter of psychology based on this school of thought? So based on this school of thoughts, the central idea or the subject matter of psychology should be function of the mind, not the structure. which means basically our behavior is influenced when we try to adapt to the environment, right? So basically, the function of the mind is to help or to enable individual to adapt to the environment where he lives. So this theory is basically influenced by the work of Charles Darwin, the evolutionary theories, that is a focus on the fetus will survive. When we talk about Charles Darwin, said that the fetus will survive. Which fetus? He answered that the one who can easily able to adapt to the environment. So basically, our behavior is influenced when we try to adapt to the environment. The functionalists emphasize on the causes and consequences of behavior, set the course of psychology as science. The methods to studies include questionnaires. They use the questionnaires as a method to study behavior, mental test, and objective description of behaviors are the methods that the functionalists use. So the third one is the Gestalt psychology. From the early school of thought, the third one is the Gestalt psychology. The Gestalt psychology leading components of the Gestalt view were the German psychologists Max Wertheimer, Kurt Kofaka, and Wolfgang Holler are the founder of this school of thought. They are different from the structuralist and functionalist. Instead of considering the separate parts, actually they focus just like the structuralist. They focus on the conscious experience or the conscious mind, but they are different than they are not considered the elements or the structure that makes up the mind. But according to the Gestalt psychology, our behavior basically influenced by the whole system of the mind. Their slogan is the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, not the structure, the whole system can affect our behavior. So their goal was to understand the phenomena of conscious experience in holistic terms, not in the individual or not as the elements. The fourth one is the psychoanalysis theories or psychoanalysis school of thought. Sigmund Freud is the father of the psychoanalysis, or he is the founder of this school of thought. According to Sigmund Freud, all behavior, whether it is normal or abnormal, is influenced by the unconscious mind. So the unconscious, which is the subject matter of psychoanalysis here, from conscious mind, it is shifted, the subject matter of psychology shifted into the unconscious mind when we came to the psychoanalysis school of thought. How can we study the unspeakable yearnings, secrets, and conflict between desire and duties? How can we study about all these issues? The methods of to study such unconscious experiences by using free association and dream analysis are the methods that are basically used to study the unconscious mind or unconscious experience. The fifth early school of thought is behaviorism. This school of thought brought a paradigm shift on the subject matter of psychology. Because when we began, structuralism focused on the conscious experience or on the conscious mind. Still, it talks about the mind. And the next is functionalism. Still, it talks about psychology should focus about the function of the mind that enables us to adapt the environment. Still, functionalists talk about the mind. And when we come to the Gestalt, the whole system or the holistic approach, which focus on the function, which focus on the conscious experience. And when we come to the fourth one, psychoanalysis, it talks about the unconscious experience. But when we come to this school of thought, when we come to this approach, behaviorism brought great paradigm shift on the subject matter of psychology. Now here, the subject matter of psychology should be about observable, measurable behavior and nothing more, right? Nothing more. It should not be about the mind. It should not be about the function of the mind. Rather, psychology should be about the observable, measurable behavior of human being. So here, the aim is to describe, predict, understand, and control behavior. This is the paradigm shift or way of thinking or the way of from the subject matter of psychology. When we come to the modern perspective, most of them are the continuation of the early school of thought. For instance, psychodynamic perspective is a continuation or the refined form of the psychoanalysis. It has its origin in Freud theories of psychoanalysis, right? So this is a continuation የቀጠለ ነገር ነው ከሳይኮአናሊሲስ ተቀጥሎ የመጣ ስኩል ኦፍ ቶት ነው ወይንም ሪፋይንድ ፎርም ነው ማለት ነው። ምንድነው ባህሪያችንን በዚህኛው አንደርስታንዲንግ ኢንፍሉዌንስ የሚያደርገው የሚለው ስንመለከት this perspective emphasizes unconscious dynamics, still the unconscious mind, the inner forces, conflict in instinctual energies are the basis that basically influence our behavior. This approach emphasizes on three things. ባህሪን ሶስት ነገሮች ተጽዕኖ ያደርጉበታል ብሎ ያሳያል። አንደኛው the influence of the unconscious mental behavior on everyday behavior, right? በየቀኑ የምናሳየው ባህሪ ላይ እዚህ unconscious ማይንዳችን ላይ ስቶር ያደረግነው painful experience እንዴት ቢሄቭ እንደምናደርግ ተጽዕኖ ያደርግብናል ማለት ነው። ሌላው the role of child personality in determining adult personality. Freud believed that the child is the father of the man. ያ ማለት ነው በልጅነታችን ኤክስፒሪየንስ ያደረግነው ነገር የስብና የሚባለው ነገር መገንባት የሚጀምረው መሰራት የሚጀምረው እንደ ኤርሊ ቻይልድሁድ ፔሪድ ነው። ስለዚህ ኤርሊ ቻይልድሁድ ፔሪድ ላይ የጀመረን ነገር on the latter phase በምናድግበት ጊዜ ወይንም አዳልትሁድ ፔሪድ ውስጥ በምንገባ ጊዜ የዛ ሪፍሌክሽን ወይንም የአዳልትሁድ ፔሪድ የቻይልድሁድ ሪፍሌክሽን ነው። በልጅነታችን ኤክስፒሪየንስ ያደረግነው ነገር አዳልትሁድ ፐርሶናሊቲን ዲተርማይን ያደርጋል ብሎ ያስባል ሲግመንድ ፍሮይድ ማለት። the role of interpersonal conflict in determining human behavior. ሌላው ነገር we have internal forces basically our behavior which influence our personalities, right? personality components ሶስት መሰረታዊ ነገሮች ያሉት አንደኛው ኢድ የሚባል ፐርሰናሊቲ አለ፣ ሁለተኛ ኢጎ፣ ሶስተኛው ሱፐር ኢጎ የሚባል የሰው ልጅ ፐርሰናሊቲስ ኮምፖነንት ናቸው እነዚህ። ያ ማለት እያንዳንዳቸው እነዚህ ሶስቱም ኮምፖነንቶች within one person ውስጥ የሚገኙ ወይንም በአንድ ግለሰብ ውስጥ የሚገኙ ግን ከሰው ሰው የመጠናቸው ሁኔታ የሚለያይ። ለምን some of us might be id dominated and some of us might be ego dominated, and at the same time some of us might be super ego dominated, but still three of the components are found within one person. So based on this በዚህኛው አንደርስታንዲንግ የሰው ልጅ ባህሪያን ሊቀይሩት ወይም ተጽዕኖ ሊያደርጉበት የሚችሉት ነገሮች ፐርሶናሊቲ ኮምፖነንት ነው፣ በውስጣችን የሚፈጠር የስብና ግጭት ነው ማለት ነው። when we come to the behavioral perspectives, still this is also the continuation of the behaviorism. So the Russian psychologist and Ivan Pavlov is the founder of the perspective, emphasized the important role that previous learning experience, the influence of the environment, right? So our behavior is basically affected the person action. The environment basically affects the person action according to this school of thought. What are their focus? Behaviors focus on environmental condition, reward and punishment can shape our behavior, right? Basically actionaችንን shape የሚያደርገው the presence of reward ወይንም ደግሞ punishment ነው ብሎ የሚያስብ school of thought ነው behavioral perspective. The humanistic perspective ስንመጣ humanistic behavior in the humanist view, behavior in the humanistic view, Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow are the founder of this school of thought. So they are determined the human behavior is determined by either unconscious dynamics or the environment. This perspective assumes that people are naturally endowed with the capacity to make decisions about their lives and to control their behaviors. Not the environment, not the unconscious dynamics, but individuals are free to make decisions about their lives. So being good or being bad is not the result of the environment or the unconscious dynamics. It is just the decision of the individual according to the humanistic approach. It gives full freedom to the individual, right? The goal of humanist psychology was to help people express themselves creatively and achieve their full potential. The human being has free will to make decisions about his or her own life rather than depending on societal standards. ስለዚህ በዚህኛው አንደርስታንዲንግ ግለሰቡ የማህበረሰቡን ስታንዳርድ ሳይጠብቅ ስለ ራሱ ህይወት መወሰን ቢፈልግ ጎበዝ ቢፈልግ ሰነፍ ቢፈልግ because every one of us endowed with a unique potential, right? በዚህኛው አንደርስታንዲንግ እያንዳንዳችን አንድ ግለሰብ የራሱ የሆነ ዩኒክ የሆነ ፖቴንሻል እንዳለው ስለሚታመን ጉብዝናም ስንፍናም ያንን ዩኒክ ፖቴንሻል የመጠቀም ጉዳይ እንጂ ኢንቫይሮንመንት ውስጥ ወይንም ደግሞ አንኮንሺየስ ዳይናሚክሱ የሚያመጣው የባህሪ የተጸኖ ውጤት አይደለም ነው የሚለው ሁማኒስት። The cognitive perspectives, it emphasizes the mental process involved with knowing how we direct our attention, how we perceive, how we remember, and how we think and solve problems can shape our behavior. So it focuses on the process that helps people to know, understand, and think about the world. So the way we think can determine our behavior, right? The goal is to show how people's thoughts and explanation affect their action, feeling, and choices. The techniques used to explore behavior from cognitive perspective include electrical recording of brain activities, electrical stimulation, radioactive tracing of metabolic activity in the nervous system. When we come to the biological perspective, it focuses on how our behaviors are influenced by our biology. Our biology, basically, the brain, the various brain chemicals or the neurotransmitters, how they affect our behavior, how our biological system related with our behavior, the influence of biological system on behavior studies, or it focus on this issue, the biological perspective. When we come to the socio-cultural perspective, it emphasizes how the culture, ethnicity, and gender are essential here, how they influence our behavior, influencing our behavior. When we say cultural psychologists examine how cultural rules and values, both explicit and unspoken, affect people's development, behavior, and feeling. They say humans are both the product and the producer of the culture, and our behavior always occur in some cultural context. What are the research methods here? The last topics in chapter 1 is research methods in psychology. Before we go into the research methods, we have to know, we need to understand the terms. One of the terms is scientific method, the other is theory, hypothesis, and variable. Always when we conduct research, we have to understand these terms. If something is scientific, or if the method is scientific, the scientific method is a process of testing ideas through systematic observation, experimentation, and statistical analysis. Theory is when we start, or after we identify the problem, we need to establish a theory. We need to develop a theory. So what is a theory? Theory is an integrated set of principles about observed facts intended to describe and explain some aspects of the experience. The other thing we need to understand when we conduct the research is always start with a hypothesis. Hypothesis is a tentative proposition, or it is scientific guess about the phenomena or variables. Variables is something that undergoes change. Something that we need to study is called a variable. Variable can be dependent and independent. When we come to the independent variable, any factors whose change is expected to affect the event that is being studied is independent variable. Dependent variable is the event that is expected to change when the independent variable is altered or manipulated. The experimental method. One of the method is experimental method. In the case of experimental method, basically we use this method in order to when our research, the aim of our research is to show the cause and effect relationship between the variables. Our plan is just to show, or our goal, the goal of our research is to show the cause and effect relationship between the variable. Usually we use the experimental research method. So when we conduct the experimental research method, we do have two groups. These two groups are control groups and experimental groups. Experimental groups refers to the group under investigation. ኢንቨስቲጌሽኑ የሚደረግበት ቲም ኤክስፐሪመንታል ግሩፕ ወይንም ደግሞ አዳዲስ ነገሮችን ማኒፑሌት የምናደርግበት ግሩፕ ኤክስፐሪመንታል ግሩፕ ሲባል፣ ኮንትሮል ግሩፕ የሚባለው ደግሞ the group that receives similar treatment except for the critical independent variable. For instance, the group is the control group basically used to compare the impacts of the variables that we manipulate on the experimental group. So these are the two groups on the case of the experimental research method. The other is the correlation research. In the case of correlation, it's the research method which studies the relationship between two or more variables. When our goal is to study, to conduct, to show the relationship between the variables, if our title is, or the objective of our title, to show the relationship between the variable, we use correlational research method. In the correlation means it is the degree of relationship between two variables. Sometimes the relation between the variables might be positive, negative, or neutral. And this is when we use correlation research. Basically, we use our plan is to show if our plan or if our objective is to show the relationship between the variables. Descriptive research method. In the descriptive, we can have three different descriptive research methods. These are the survey method. It is commonly used method using questionnaires, group discussion, whatever. It is a kind of it helps us to get vast amount of information by using questionnaires. So it is a method of getting information regarding people characteristics, attitudes, opinion, or behavior by asking them all the same question. The case study is one of the descriptive research method. This is intensive investigation of one or a few individuals, usually with reference to single psychological phenomena in single case. Case studies allow for a considerable depth of analysis. Its aim is to reveal things true of all. It's rich data, time-consuming, difficult to generalize actually. When we come to the naturalistic observation, it is a method used to collect data by observing the overt behavior of an individual. It is observing and recording behavior in naturally occurring situations without trying to manipulate and control the situation. So these are the three different types of descriptive research methods. What are the steps that we need to follow? Always, our research starts from identifying the problem. We do have different problems. We need to list out, and then we need to prioritize which problem is urgent. So on the basis of the urgency, we can make a choice, and that means perceiving the problem or identifying the problem in the first step. And after we identify the problem, we need to form hypotheses. We need to guess. We need to have a tentative or educated guess about the explanation for your observation. That is forming hypothesis is the second step. The third one is we need to check. We need to test the hypothesis by using different methods, by collecting different data, right? In order to accept or reject the proposed statement, or we might be wrongly state, right? Or our assumption might be wrong. So in order to check our assumption or our hypothesis, we need to test the hypothesis. Then, after we prove, we draw the conclusion based on the data we gather. We give different justification for the result is presented. The final step in conducting research is reporting the research. We need to report what we have found after we conduct the research. So this is, at this point, the researcher would want to write exactly what she or he did, why she or he did, and what he or found, right? So this is the last step. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next audio lecture session. See you. Goodbye.